My name is Arline Cecchini. It was Arline Lots when I was born, and I never expected to live to be 87 years old. But I was number 10 of an 11 children family. I had 7 sisters and 3 brothers, and we were all born at home. I was born with a veil on my face, which is very lucky, and a strawberry on my chest, which is very lucky. My mother always said that I would have a charmed life, and I did. I have had more than I ever expected to have in my life. My mom was a saint. She was a beautiful woman, and she had so much love. She had enough love for everybody. If she had money, she would give it all away. She took in people. There was a woman, Mrs. Dittner. She was an invalid, and we would take her to the airport for her to go see her son out in California, and then we'd bring her home, and then we'd bring her to, she had a little apartment, and we'd bring her there. We took good care of her. But that was my mother. My cousins, when their parents died, took them in too. And my dad, he was kind of offish, but he was a wonderful father too. When my mom told him she was pregnant for me, he did not speak to her for months because number 10, he thought they were done. And when I was born, he felt so bad about that, he named me after his favorite movie star, Arline Judge, which you probably never heard of. But I was his favorite. I don't know as I ever took advantage of it because I didn't really think that he was, but he did. My sisters will all say, Arline, you go ask Dad, he'll do it for you. My father was a carpenter. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. When we got older, I remember she did work in Woolworths for a while, and my mom made clothes for us. She made clothes that looked better than the ones you bought. She would get material from Florida. They had the cotton bags and everything, and they were all flowered. And she would cut the flowers off and put them on our pinafores with the ruffles and brocade them right on our pinafore. I remember. We lived in Yonkers, and we always rented a big house. We never owned one. We lived in one house. I still loved that house. My father had built it for this man, a wealthy man. He wanted it built for his wife. Well, before it was finished, she passed. So he rented it out to my father. It had parquet wood floors. It had a full-length mirror on every door. It had a maid's quarters. It had a kitchen with the back stairway up to a hall with the bay windows, and it was right on the Hudson. But I say my mom and dad never owned anything, and we would go from apartment to apartment. We moved a lot. And I remember we went to one apartment, and we stayed there 3 months because it was infested with roaches. We'd get rid of them, and the one upstairs would let them run. So we moved out of there. That was not a good experience. And in spite of being poor, they took very good care of us. I remember, too, I was hit by a car when I think I was only 4 or 5 years old. My mom and dad had gone shopping, and my sister Caroline was left to take care of me. I got out of the apartment and was crossing the street, which they had parking on both sides, so it was full of cars. And I walked out and I got hit by a car. I remember seeing stars and planets, but I don't know. They took me to the hospital. But the thing was, when my mom and dad come home, the kids in the street said, Mrs. Lutz, your daughter just got killed by a car. So she went in, Caroline's standing, and she's crying. She said, no, Mom, no, she's okay. And the man that hit me, I remember, bought me the prettiest dress with flowers on it and white shoes and socks, and he gave me a 50-cent piece, which back then was like a $50 bill. I remember that. My childhood was a very good childhood to remember. I remember my brother Charlie, who's 5 years older than me, and my youngest sister, 2 years younger. We were like a separate family. All the others were adults and married, and my brother Charlie would take care of us. We had skates that you clip onto your shoes, and we'd skate down the sidewalk, all this broken sidewalk. I remember every day we would skate down there. The holidays were beautiful. Christmas, when we went to bed, there was no toys, no packages, nothing out. And we go up and we have to go to sleep and wait for them to tell us when Santa Claus came. So when Santa Claus came, we'd come down and here would be this huge Christmas tree all decorated and 10 or 12 gifts wrapped. They were small, a coloring book, a paper doll book, a pack of crayons, but we had gifts. And she would bake for weeks. And at the end of the one room, we have one small room on the first floor. She would bake and put it in the tins, shortbread and all fancy cookies, and she would put it in that room and lock the door, and we'd be looking in the keyhole to see if we could see. So we had a lot of cookies. She was a great cook. We had wonderful meals, but the only Italian meals we had was once a month. She did make spaghetti once a month, but we were not Italian then, like I am now. They would take us to the movies. They'd take us to what then was an ice cream parlor. And my grandfather lived in Florida, but he would come up and plant a garden. And when he'd come up, he would bring me oranges. And in the morning, for my sister and I, he would bring them in to slice them and bring them in to and sit on our bed and let us eat the oranges. And he would eat the peels. And when my grandfather died, my sister and I were getting ready. My mom was going to take us to Florida with her because her parents, they were her mom and dad. She had been going down once in a while because Mom was sick. My grandmother was sick. So she said, next time I go, I'm going to take you and your sister with me. We got all ready. I even gave my coconut away because I thought I'd get more. And the night before we were to leave, my grandfather passed. So now my mother had to go down and bring my grandmother home. And my mother gave her her bedroom, big bedroom. And my sister Vera was a beautician, and she would do her hair. And every time I come home from school, I go in and sit with Grandma. And then one day I come home and she wasn't there anymore, which I remember was a very sad day for me. So my memories of my childhood are very good. My sisters and brothers were very good to us, very good. We lived right at the end of the school district for this one school. And the principal there she was a witch. Mrs. Gifford. My family had a lot of, we all went to this school. And it was a fancy school. It was right on the river. Most of the kids were well-to-do that went there. But we were right at the end of the line. And every year the principal would try to get us to go to the other school. And the other school was down more in the city part. I went to junior high, the same junior high that my husband went to. We were 2 years apart, but I never ran into him, and then when we went to high school, we went to 2 different schools. Actually, my school was mostly girls. It was a girls' school. And he was in a boys' school. But he would sneak out, and he'd come to the girls' school. And I never saw him there, but I was in that school. When we would leave for the day, every class had a line up in the hall. And then they'd play Star Spangled Banner or something like that. And we had to march out. Transportation was a trolley car right in front of the school, but you had to have a nickel. We never had a nickel. So every once in a while, Nikki and I, my sister and I, would squeeze through and get on the trolley ourselves. And then where we lived in this big house I was talking about, the trolley car ended in front of this house. And the way they didn't turn around, they would go in and switch all the seats over. And then there was controls at both ends. So when he was driving it up front, I was in the back. So I want to be a trolley car driver. But I had a rough time in school. I could have made it very well because I was not bragging. I was pretty smart, but I just didn't like school. So when I was 16, I quit. And I went to work. And I worked in Woolworths. I worked in a greeting card company. I worked in the telephone company. And then I worked for this big magazine, this Consumer Report magazine, where I made pretty good money. I was working there when I met my husband, Lou, and that was the beginning of a beautiful life. We fell in love, and he was in the gas station that my father would go to on the other side of Yonkers where we lived, but he liked the mechanic there. So I go for my gas there, and he would wash the inside of my windshield and the outside. My sister was always with me, younger sister. And I said to her one day, I said, he's going to ask me out. And she says, will you go out with him? I said, who knows? I might marry the guy. And I did. We had a long courtship because he was younger than I was. But I'll tell you a story. When we talked about our age, he said that he was 18. I said I was 19. And then we're out with his sister one night, and she said he was only 17. And I was really 20. And that night I said, so you're 17. He says, does it matter? I says, no. I said, does it matter to you? He says, no. I says, I'm 20. We went together till he was 21 to get married because he didn't want to have his parents sign for him. So we waited till he was 21. And that started a beautiful life. We went into business. We bought a dry cleaning business, which was, who'd ever think that we were in the dry cleaning business? He was working in the city with his father in the garment district. He could make a suit from beginning to end. He worked there for 7-8 years. And then this opportunity came up. We didn't even know what we were buying when we first saw the ad in the paper. Now, we lived in New York, but the business was in New Jersey. So we had a little problem getting finances for it. And he wouldn't tell his father. I says, you've got to tell your father that this is what we're going to do. And every day he'd come home from work and I'd say, did you tell your father? And she, no, I'll tell him tomorrow. So I called his mother and I told her. So when he come home that night, I said, did you tell your father? He says, no. I said, well, I told your mother. And Mom was on the phone 3 or 4 times with me. But his father supported us. So we ventured. He helped us get started. Our first few years were really tough, really, really tough. There were times when he wanted to quit. But I wouldn't let him. I says, we got into it. Let's keep going as long as we can. And I don't know how many years it was. It was maybe 2 or 3 or 4. But the business boomed. And by the time we were done, we owned 7 stores. I was working all day, and I loved it. I loved working with him. I loved working with the people. I worked every day. I only got fired once, and I only quit once. But I was back the next day. When the Playboy Club opened in our area, and we were doing their cleaning and their service, I did their laundry. I did Willie Nelson's laundry. And I would be up till 2 o'clock in the morning with my girls helping me, folding it and pricing it. And Lou gave me all the money that he made from that, he gave to me. And I saved it. But we had a wonderful life doing that. I always wanted to have twins. My siblings all had single births, and I had 36 nieces and nephews, and none of them were twins. And Lou would say, be happy. When I got pregnant, he says, be happy you're having one. But I wanted twins. And I had them. I had my beautiful boys, very healthy, and I enjoyed bringing them up. When they were really small, I remember we had finished a basement in West Nyack, and I would put the music on, and I'd hold the both of them, and I would dance with them in the basement. I would dance around with them. They used to call each other Pappy. And I remember shopping with them one time. They had the big full-length mirrors. Well, they looked and they thought it was the other one. Hi, Pappy, they'd say. And then one of them had a little accident on the floor. The little boot fell out, and I pushed it under the... When the boys were maybe a year or two old, they had the cribs next to each other. And when they wake up from the nap, I'd leave them in there as long as they would play. One day I went in, and here it was Louis. He's marking on the wall. And I said, where did you get that? And he's from his pants. I said, why? He says, I'm making a cleaner New York. It was a commercial on TV. A cleaner New York. So he was making a cleaner New York on the wall with his poop. And when they got a little bit older, they were out in the neighborhood, and one of my neighbors from the other side of the development come back, and he says, I had to bring a little boy home, he says, but I asked him his name, and he said his name was Corey Stewart. I said, that's my son. And the other one, he would call himself Mickey Rooney. They had their own names. They were a handful, but I had so much fun with them. I was so proud of them. You know, it's my 2 boys. I had 2 boys. And then I had my girl, my first girl, Lisa. Lisa was very affectionate. And they had what they call Sadie Hawkins Day. It's where everybody loves each other. And the teacher told me, I don't like the way Lisa's being too affectionate when she's hugging and kissing everybody. I says, she's from an Italian family. You walk in the door, you kiss and hug everybody. When you leave, you kiss and hug everybody. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. And she apologized. And then I thought we were done. But then my mom passed away. And I said, I want another baby to make up for losing my mom. And we had another beautiful little girl. Michelle, she was just a good kid. They were so good. They never gave me any trouble. Little problems once in a while. But there's one I'll tell you. My sons, we lived in a neighborhood where we had a lake, a small lake, but we had a beach on it and a lifeguard. And all the families, all the young children. So they all became friends, girls and the boys. And I would go to work. And one day I came home early, and down in the basement we had finished it off, and we put up a poker table with the light over it for them to play cards. Well, when I went down, everybody was running. They were scattering because with the neighborhood girls, they were playing strip poker. That didn't happen again. But it was little things like that they get into. Sunday mornings was hard because the kids were a little riled, and Dad always had like an attitude. I don't know. Sunday mornings, he was not working, and he was, and Louis, he'd go downstairs, and then he'd come up all in a costume. He'd find all kinds of things to wear to make us laugh. And one time he'd come up, and he had a pillow under his shirt, and he laid on the floor. He said, "Oh, I'm going to have a baby." And he grunted and the baby. Just to make Sunday mornings, make them good. Yeah, it was, wow. I think about it, what fun we had. How much I enjoyed my children, raising my children. And it gave me all these beautiful grandchildren that I enjoyed. I babysat for all my grandchildren. And I went to school with them and sat in the little chairs. If they were sick, I would go pick them up because their moms would be working. I would be working, but I could leave. I was free to leave. And I'd go pick them up and bring them home with me. We did a lot together. I got to enjoy all my grandchildren, all 10 of them. Now my grandchildren are giving me new babies in the house. Boy, I could just sit and watch them for hours. We vacationed in Lake George every year. We discovered it one year, and we stayed at a villa right on the water. All the Minnehaha boats would come by and blow their horns because we could see them. I mean, they were right on. We had our own beach and a swimming pool. It was a beautiful place. We finally decided we wanted to buy, and we found this beautiful little cottage in a neighborhood with, I think there were 7 or 8, all newly remodeled. And we bought there. And all the money that I had earned doing the laundry, Willie Nelson's laundry, that I saved, I bought all the furniture for that house and all the pots and pans and the curtains. And I would go up and I'd say, "How do you hug a house?" I loved it so much. It was really just very cozy. You had the peaked ceiling and a fireplace, and you could see the lake. We had a deck out there and 3 bedrooms. We just loved it. It was just so cozy, and we just would have everybody up there. Anybody wanted to go anytime. We always had room for everybody. Before we lived in Sussex, we had moved to West Nyack, New York, and that was a community with maybe 50 homes. They were small homes, but they were new. And I loved it. My father built a screen on the front of the garage door. So at night, we could sit and play cards and that in my garage. And I'd have half the neighborhood over. And Lou would say, "I'm tired." And he'd go to bed and leave me there with all. But it was a good life there. We made very, very good friends there. Lou was very big in the fire department, and so was I. In West Nyack, the firehouse was right at the edge of the development. So we spent a lot of time there. And I joined the auxiliary and eventually became president in West Nyack and marched in parades and parties and stuff. It was a nice environment and nice, all the couples and all. It was really good. When I was younger, I was very shy. I couldn't say boo to anybody. I'd shake if I had to talk to somebody. So when I joined the auxiliary in New York, as president, I had to get up and address 500-600 people. So I got up and I said, "You know what? You just have to talk. Just let it out like you're talking to somebody." And I got up and I made my speech. And after that, I said, "Hey, you okay?" It was good. In Sussex, I was into a lot, and I had my granddaughters and my daughters to help me because we would do craft shows, hours and hours. We would do setting it up and raising the money. We did turkey trays and turkey baskets, and we were into everything. The parades, I'd get in a uniform, and I'd march in the parades. Oh, boy, I loved doing that. That was really, really good, especially when we'd win. We did a lot. We won a lot of trophies, our department. And bingo, I would do bingo. I'd make sandwiches, and then I'd go serve bingo. And we would have a tricky tray during bingo where you buy tickets and you put you in each tray to try and win it. And I remember one time, I'm very lucky winning stuff. So I'm in the kitchen, and they call my number. And I say, in the kitchen. Well, number 6 in the kitchen. I finally said, would you tell them that you won it? Because I kept winning. I won a bicycle from Michelle, and I won the 50-50, So I just lucky that way. But it got embarrassing after a while because, too much. But it was fun. We bought a beautiful home in Sussex, and we just kept adding on. Now, Lou is a family with no animals, but by the time we got done, we had cats, dogs, rabbits, birds, and horses, and goats, all on our little 3 acres here. And the story about the rabbit, I had 2 rabbits and they were fighting. So I put my hand in the cage to take them apart, and one of them latched onto my hand. And I was running around the backyard with this rabbit hanging off my hand. I had a bird. I was trying to teach him to talk. And Lou would come in, whenever he came in the door, he'd whistle. He'd whistle for me. And I'd have to answer, so he knew I was there. And one day I'm in the back, and I hear him whistle. I said, okay, I'll be right there. He whistled again. I said, I'll be right there. And then he whistled again. So I come out, and I was going to yell at him, I'm answering you. And he was out in the yard on his lawnmower. It wasn't him. It was the bird. The bird learned to whistle like he did. And my children call me Dr. Doolittle because I've had animals who were injured actually come to me. We had Shelties. And one day a Sheltie came up my driveway, very sickly looking. And in the back, in the one corner, we had a big pine tree. And that's where we would bury our animals when they died. And that dog, that little Sheltie, went right back to that tree and died there. One day we're sitting by our pool, and this parakeet comes down off our garage and lands right on my shoulder. I mean, a parakeet is not a wild bird, so I figured he got away from somebody. So we advertised it that we had found a parakeet, but it was like two weeks. Nobody came, and finally a little girl and the mother came to our door and said that she had walked outside with a parakeet, and he flew off. This parakeet came from the other side of the valley, all the way over the other side of the valley, and flew over to my shoulder. My neighbor was buying exotic birds. She had an ostrich, and she had a peacock. Well, every day I'd see this peacock in my yard, and after a while he didn't go home. He wanted to stay here. We'd bring him back, and he'd come back, and we had goats. We were going to buy this little goat that was in the barn across the road. We were going to take one boat, but there were 2. So we said, okay, we'll take the 2. But then they weren't weaned off their mother yet. So we took the mother too. And the mother had one broken leg. And we had 3 goats. We bred our dogs, we bred our cats, we bred our horse, we bred the Shelties. And she had pups, and we put them up to sell. And Lou would call me every day, did somebody call about the pups? And I'd tell them no. But they would call, and I'd say, sorry, they're already sold. I could not sell those pups. So I gave one to my son, Louis, and I kept the other one. But I didn't breed anymore because I couldn't give them away. And the same with the cats. I bred them. I had beautiful cats, but I had to keep them. So I gave my daughter one to take to college with her. It was just an amazing, amazing life because I loved animals. Christmas was very special for me. Lou at home, he would get a pair of shoes or a shirt, and that'd be it. But when he started going with me, his first Christmas, I had 10 packages for him. And he said, "What's all this?" I said, "It's Christmas." When we got married, we had the tree, and we shopped for days and wrapped for days. I used to make money trees. I would find a tree or a snowman's head, and I would put the dollar bills on it. And I would put $25, $30 bills for each one of them. And then there was the car club. We'd have a Christmas party every year. And I would crochet bears. They were all different, but I'd crochet for each one. I crochet 60, 70 bears. They'd be all over the house, and I'd bring them down, and everyone, every year, got a bear. And I just loved doing it. I just enjoyed doing it. A lot of our life then was around the car club. We did a lot. We did a lot with them. Lou and I ran it. We took care of everything. Food drives and cruises. And we had one place for a while called the Chatterbox. We would get 400 to 500 cars there every Saturday night. It was a big round restaurant, all 50s style. Food was great. The owner was great. We got to where we had celebrities. We had Henry Winkler. He came twice. And Cindy Williams from Happy Days. She loved us. She came twice. We had a crowd. We just had such a good time. And I'd bring balloons for the kids. And we have door prizes and a 50-50 and entertainment. We'd bring the fire trucks in every once in a while. We had a clown. We would bring the clown in. It was a good time for everybody. Unfortunately, he had to sell the place, and they knocked it down, and now it's a gas station. And that was our hobby. And with the club, we met a lot of nice people and enjoyed the people and the cars. My father-in-law would buy a new Cadillac every 2 years, and we would buy his old one. But it would be like brand new because he hardly ever drove it, and he kept the covers on the seats. So when we got it, we took the covers off. After a while, he would come and say, "What color you want?" He'd let me pick out the color. When they got to be smaller, and no style, I said I didn't want it anymore. My grandson came and told me, "Grandma, Cadillac's building a truck, an Escalade." I liked a big car, so we bought one of the first Escalades. And then every 2 years, we traded in just to change the color. I loved to drive, a fast driver. We knew all the troopers. They all were customers in the store. And one day I pulled into my garage, and here's this trooper sitting behind me. He's, "Hey, Speedo." He says, "You know how fast you were coming up here?" I said, "Yeah, well, I wanted to get home." But he was a customer, a friend, so he just said, "You slow down." Then he told my sons, "Your mother, Speedo there." I did. I like to drive fast. And I had the car to do it. The Escalade, I never knew how fast I was going. My 60th birthday party was one of the biggest surprises. I suspected whenever they were going to make a surprise, so yeah, that's what they're going to do. This time, they said that the firemen were always having dinners, so they were going to have a retirement dinner at this local restaurant. At first I said, "Nah, I don't know if I want to go," but actually my son said, "Mom, I'm going." So I says, "Okay, if you're going, then I'll go." And I walked in the room expecting to see firemen sitting at the dinner, and there was balloons, and everybody yelled, "Surprise!" And I think I stood for a half hour with my mouth open. And at this party, my 4 kids roasted me. They told everybody all about my stories. One of them was, we had a Jeep at one time, and I was getting in the Jeep, And then I had to turn around for something, for some reason. I turned around, back around, and I got in a Jeep, and there was no steering wheel. I had gotten in the back seat. They loved that story. I was never serious. Everything was a big joke to me. All these things I did, getting in the back seat of the car and running around with a rabbit on my hand, all those things, the kids call me Lucy. They say, there's Lucille Ball, there's Lucy. Because I always joked with them. Everything was a joke. Mom, be serious. No, I don't want to be serious. I couldn't believe sometimes myself what I did. I remember in the store we had the conveyor belt. I would hang on the conveyor belt. And then next thing I know, Lou would be Yeah, I got him to have a little humor too. My mom was a little bit like that. She was, as much as I knew her, she laughed a lot. She's just so sweet. My sons and daughters, they on the lake, they had a lot of friends. And I called this the halfway house because they all came here. Before they go out, they come here first. And they'd hang out here. Some of my daughter's friends say, will you adopt me? One boy, he was always in trouble. I took him in, and Michelle was a baby then, and he would play with her. He'd bring me flowers. He straightened out. He was really good. He lived maybe about a mile away from me with his mother. He'd go back with his mother, and then he'd be in trouble again. So I would take him back. We used to call him Edith Ann to joke, but he was the nicest boy. One of Lisa's dates. We took him in for a while. He would make fresh croutons. He made beautiful croutons, and he would cook for us. Whenever they got hurt, they would come here, and I would patch them up before they went home to their mothers. One of my neighborhood girls, Michelle's friend, she brought her home, and she laid on the couch, and she's not feeling well. And I went over to her, I says, Michelle, she's drunk. So I sobered her up before I sent her home, and I says, the next time you do this, if you do this again, I'm sending you home to your mother to clean you up. I did it for you now, but if you do it again, your mother's going to clean you up. I would do that for them. They were nice kids, and I had them here a lot. I would say at the time that I enjoyed cleaning them up, but I did because I loved these kids. I felt sorry. I didn't want them to be in trouble. And if they're in trouble, I wanted to help them as much as I could. I guess I got it from my mother. Our religion, my mom and dad didn't go to church, but they were Methodist. They were Protestant faith. And my mother had a lot of faith. But where we went to church, we actually went to the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army taught me most of what I know about the Bible. Then when I got older, I went to the Methodist church. I sang in the choir, and I taught the little ones. I had a whole class. I remember one little girl insisted on sitting on the floor. So I says, okay. So I sat on the floor, and everybody else sat on the floor with her. I met Lou, and he was Catholic, strict Catholic. Religion was important to me. So when he went into service, I went to his church, and I studied with the priest there. I said, if I can accept it enough to believe in it, then I will change. He never knew I was going. We were to get married in the Catholic Church. If I didn't change, it would be before the altar. We couldn't go on the altar. So I changed. I changed for him. His sister and her husband were my sponsors, and the church was like a cathedral. It's a huge, beautiful church. So we raised the children. We raised them Catholic. They went to parochial school. But once they got to Sussex and got girlfriends, and they were going to get married, All their girls were Protestant, so they switched. And I kept trying to get Lou to switch because I was not happy with that. I wanted to be a Methodist again. Well, he got sick, was in the hospital, and the minister from the Methodist church, was a woman, came and visited him and spoke to him. The priest never came. Every night she would come to the house and sit and talk, and he loved her. So he changed to Methodist. And when his father was the church was right in their neighborhood, and he gave them a lot of money. He would give them a lot of money. He felt like he had to pay his way. And when he died, we couldn't get a priest from that church to do his service. We had to go all the way to the other side of Yonkers and pay a priest to come to do his service. So that totally turned Lou away from that. Lou would go to church every Sunday. And in the middle of the week, he would go up and sit by the church and kind of meditate, kind of just sit there and, he couldn't do enough for the church. He was so generous. He would help everybody. He would help everybody. He was a wonderful husband, a wonderful father, and he was wonderful to everybody. He was such a good person. My husband, Lou, gave me more than I ever expected to have in my life. Whatever I wanted, he'd get me two of. I'd just have to hint at something, and he'd get it for me. For a long time, our anniversary, he would bring me a rose, and then a rose for every year, until I think we got to 25, and then he bought me a dishwasher. I said, "Where'd my roses?" He says, "They're in the dishwasher." We did have arguments, but we never left mad. And then he'd say, "I never said that. Why are you upset?" "'Cause what you said." "I never said that." I would never say that to you. But we would make up, and making up was great. We would put each other first. I would put him first. He would put me first. It sometimes got us in trouble, but that was And then I remember when he'd hug me, I'd say, "This is the best place in the world." And when he passed, we had a service at the firehouse, and there were over 500 people that came. And there were a couple of hundred that couldn't make it or wouldn't stand online. He had a beautiful, beautiful wake, and he's at peace now, and so he's good. I'm happy for him. At the funeral, everybody commented about his smile. He smiled from ear to ear. And I look back now at our wedding pictures, and I see, my goodness, he looks so happy. He just looks so, so happy. And someone back then had said to me, "I wish my husband looked at me like he looks at you." He's left behind a beautiful legacy. Although he's gone, my children are taking good care of me. They want me to be happy. And I do feel that because I know he's happy. So I'm happy. I miss him, but I know we'll be there. Can't live forever, and our time comes, and that's 84 years is a good long time. I'm going to live to be 100. I don't know. I don't know how good that is. But I survived cancer. I survived COVID with pneumonia and dehydration. And I survived a few other bad things. I had my knees replaced. I had 7 surgeries on the one, but I survived it all. And for some reason, the Lord wants me here. I don't know why. I got to find out. Like my grandson says, you're born and you die, but there's all that in between, and that's what you remember. I live with my memories now and make me happy. No regrets. I wish I could do them all over again. And I know you can't go back, only in your memories. So I enjoy memories, and I enjoy making new ones. I want them to remember my sense of humor. I hope that some of them got my sense of humor because it's helped me to live a better life. It's helped me through a lot of problems. I just refused to be sad, or only when I had to be. And times I'd make jokes at things that I shouldn't have, but I would like them to remember me loving them with humor. The bottom line for a happy home is love, unconditional love. You just, no matter what you do, because that's the way God loves us, and that's the way I want to love everybody. Sometimes I have a problem with it. I'll say, man, I don't like that person, but I love them because that's what God wants me to do. And if I have a decision to make that I can't make, I've so many times I said, okay, Jesus, what would you do? What do you want me to do? And I get a good answer. So have faith and love, because that's what it's all about.